What's going on, guys and girls? How doing? That's Single Roleplay here once again, and today I want to bring you guys an update to my Manastorm Stormblade Hierophant build, which I created about a month ago on the Metamorph League. And I wanted to check out the new ARCHMAGE support that everyone has been talking about how fucking OP is it, how fucking crazy it is, and I wanted to check it out and see like what's this like for real. Is it that crazy? Because it seemed like it can potentially compete with the Manastorm shield itself, so I wanted to give you guys my opinion on the case. And the first good thing about this this support is that it works on top of Manastorm. You don't need to get rid of the Manastorm shield to get the benefit of the ARCHMAGE support. They both together work, which was actually fantastic news for me. It's kind of synergizes because you don't really care, you don't casting much with the Manastorm, just cast once and drag all the brands with the brand recall further, so you don't really need to drop Manastorm in order to have the synergy with the ARCHMAGE support in my variation of the build. Now, how does it feel with the ARCHMAGE support comparing to without the ARCHMAGE support? Because, you know, I played without it for quite a while. So the clear speed has definitely improved. Everything dies way faster now. I would not say it's like overpowered or anything. It just started to be really smooth now because I heavily invested in the build. Keep in mind, guys, this what you see right here is a pretty expensive stuff. There's like 30+ X watches eye here. There's pretty cool wand here too, so this is a pretty decent setup here that you see. That's why it's pretty impressive as a whole. And this is a newly recorded video. I wanted to check how good is the Val Temple now, because you know it's one of the hardest maps in the game. I wanted to check how single target is now with the ARCHMAGE support, and it all went pretty nice. And you will see right now how I killed all the bosses. I didn't die too. The energy shield got a little lower, but the damage has definitely increased, as well as the single target by a little bit. It's not that crazy, but it definitely is good. So what is the skill is about? How does it function at all? This is the ARCHMAGE support, and how it works is it takes and sets a base mana cost of the skill that you use, depending on the amount of the unreserved maximum mana that you have. I have quite a decent amount of unreserved mana, which is about 5,000, so this sets these base mana costs for me, and then it takes this mana cost and adds lightning damage based on this mana cost. It multiplies it as well. It uses different multipliers to mana cost, like the Fevered Mind, so I get a pretty dramatic, insane amount of mana cost. As you can see, I have 1,500 mana cost to just cast one fucking brand. So the more mana cost you have, the more added lightning you add to the skill and the more damage you do. Now, how does it look without this massive mana cost, without the ARCHMAGE support? So if I just remove the ARCHMAGE support, you see the damage went down a lot. There's like 3 times less damage actually. So it does look like it's insanely overpowered, but actually it's not. The problem is that the Stormbrand itself is not really a highly super insane skill as a whole. So this kind of support definitely helps for clear speed, because you know when I play Stormbrand, shit dies indeed, but it takes a while to die, and bosses take quite a bit of time, especially in the Hierophant. This is not the Inquisitor, you know, this is not like insane crit chance, insane amount of spell damage, insane amount of crit multiply. You can't really afford that shit on the Hierophant. And the only ascendancy that works with the ARCHMAGE support is the Hierophant. You can't really sustain this crazy amount of mana cost on any other ascendancy, because Hierophant just regenerates, you know, gets crazy amount of mana. You can only stack this amount of mana practically on the Guardian and the Hierophant, but Guardian can regenerate as much. Hierophant can, so there's only one ascendancy in the game that can really fully utilize the ARCHMAGE support as a whole. Speaking about the skill tree, what I did to actually kind of put in this Fevered Mind set. These are actually legacy Fevered Minds, and this is a standard league because the build was already done in the Metamorph and it transitioned back to the standard. I had 3 of these Fevered Minds laid around on standard, so collecting dust, so finally I managed to use them. So what you see here is the legacy Fevered Minds. they have 100% increased mana cost of skills, and the current version has 50% increased mana cost of skills but higher spell damage, so they kind of try to keep up. But this definitely gives me way more mana cost set of skills than the current version of the Fevered Mind. So what I did, I had to drop some points over here. I dropped the brand damage and switched over to the activation frequency, as well as I drop some shit here and there to get a couple of this. For example, this jewel socket, I had to take that. I had to drop some energy shield in order to get this Fevered Mind. I also sacrificed one generic jewel. I think this one. Yeah, I sacrificed this ES mana all-res jewel for this. So I get 3 Fevered Minds here, and this raises my mana cost by a lot, giving me a lot more damage. I don't think I will be adding like a specific path of building link for this setup, because you know it's just pretty straightforward. You just try to get something off the tree in order to fit as much Fevered Minds as possible, and that's about it. Speaking about the damage itself, as you can see, this is damage with my mana cost and the Archmage support. The gem that I had to drop was Lightning Penetration. It was actually the least multiply in my whole setup. Conk Effect, Energy Leech support, and a Awakened Elefocus are still there. They are the biggest multipliers, as well as Inspiration. It's really, really important. So the only thing that I had to drop is the Awakening Lightning Pad, even though it gets quite a shit ton of single target damage, but unfortunately this just gives more. So Archmage support, as you can see, gives a shit ton of damage once you stack all this mana cost. Speaking about the amount of unreserved mana, it actually, if I unreserve the aspect of the spider, as you can see, I get way more mana, but this is because I used Manastorm as well, and I just spent mana. As a whole, it gives about like 10 to 20% more damage, depending on how much mana you have reserved and unreserved. So I would say it's a trade-off. I would personally like to run with the aspect of the spider instead of this 23% reserved mana for the Archmage. So I will go for the quality of life, because aspect of the spider gives me a spider webs, which slows enemies by a huge amount and give me 15% increased damage on bosses too. So I would still run with the spider and a little less mana cost, but the damage is practically pretty much the same. So that's about it. If you ask me about the Archmage support as a whole, is it worth running? Definitely yes. If GGG is watching this video right now and thinking about like, hey, this is extremely overpowered, fuck it, we're gonna nerf this, guys. I do not recommend nerfing this for a couple of reasons, guys. I will explain you why it should not be nerfed. First of all, there's just a couple of skills in the game that can use this support, because the support dramatically increases the amount of mana that you use, and outside of the mana cost, there's just one ascendancy that can use this support, which is the Hierophant, which can regenerate and get a lot of mana for that. At the same time, that must be some really strong spell that just stays there and continuously deals damage, and there's just like 2 of these skills in the game, which are Orb of Storms and Stormbrand. You can potentially try to fit Blade Vortex there, but I kinda doubt it will get the this decent amount of damage as much as Stormbrand has right now. So I kinda doubt there are more than 2 skills in the game that can potentially use the Archmage support. There may be Hand of Wisdom and Action variations, there may be something like Lightning Strike, but you can't really spam skill with this because the mana cost is absolutely ridiculous, and there's no way you can leech mana as a spellcaster, so it has to be some kind of a giant pool, Hand of Wisdom in Action, mana leeching, spell leeching, I don't know, something that can recover mana really fast, which is practically impossible right now in the game outside of the attacks. So I think there might be some cool attack variations with the Archmage support, but I kinda doubt that it will be very popular considering how niche this stuff is. So as a whole, my opinion is that it's really cool, it does a lot of damage, but it's not overpowered in any way because it's such a niche thing for literally one ascendancy and a couple of skills that you can use it. But for what it is, It definitely is viable, and what I like is that it works with my variation of the Manastorm, which gives me, you see, I cast that and I get quite decent amount of mana. I get a lot of brands. I can recall them with the brand recall, so it all kind of works. It's really cool, and that's what I like. This is my take on the build, guys. I hope you like it. I hope you appreciate what I do. Thanks for watching once again, and see you next time.